Suva, capital of Fiji, a metropolitan city that is multi-ethnic and multicultural, and the economic and cultural hub of the Pacific. A city that continues to grow and develop at a fast pace. Located just outside of Suva, on the Queens Road, is the Yabusa or Navakavu. The Yabusa or Navakavu owns 14,000 acres of customary land and consists of 7 matangalis spread over 5 villages. The villages are Wenganake, Nambaka, Moaibuso, Udinamono, and Namakala. As development in the area continues to grow, so too does the population. For the people of Navakavu, the land and the sea is important for their livelihood and survival. Derelict vessels have been abandoned and pollute the surrounding waters, and the construction of buildings and industry have degraded the land and damaged the environment. Over the years, neglect and abandonment has set in with very little regards to the welfare of the people. Navakavu is the largest landowning Yabusa in the Rewa province. And with the large-scale development, there is very little benefit to the landowning community. Over the years, the area has become industrialized, with large buildings and factories. While the economy of the area has contributed to employment, it is at an individual level, not for the community as a whole. With your support, you could help us develop into a resilient and sustainable community. If the community prospers, business also prospers. O Navakavu ngoi.
Nanto songwana kabinak ni kuah. Abunaga retangan itu kabinakana ramai Navakavu. Latani kita tinggomi juga nalom ni bale. Nakana kabinak ni kuah. Kau setengah sa malurai nani tu project back itu Akas artiko kita tu ker tu kina. Sagendorong ni tu ker. Abang bukan nak ni kuah. Itu dah tutup ni kalau kita nonton bola. Kita asyik nama kami kita anggai mikir. Ina kalau ngai kila. Kita boleh buat nak kalau ni tu bantu abang kuasa nabi kata zoko. Ini kita kedengo kita siapa tu. Kita tu ngai balik. Nah buru-buru mereka ni labo nah. Ni tu zakau goma wengarake. Saya zaka ni tu turanga. Orto na turanga ya sama tena nunggu turanga na kay Navakavu nga kay wengarake. O susunga do bolinga rona mokumbung ro sandi watala tinan raw. Orto talaga nango orto sama tena watin reto. Yo mo na ka anak lo ni tu fana tu anda na fanua mangos. Sena bukan nimbula. Kita nangai may sakir ken bakan itu tale mo narok maleni. Mena mai kerenga ke pakara na bibuke. Kita sasangko ko ti ko mendo talangaw na mundo na zo ni na koro. Iwan kan haken tu na lere kita sena ke na vanua e kita vingara bikina lomani market e Suva kita zakavana neito I voli keze mai na zakaunga e te araga kastu kina wanga. Rangole ani na ndo kan dindi kara reza na wai kita vano saranga kita zakav chikina na I voli me vakania tu na leoni matentu binango viti se leoni koro Suva. Eu kera vosa ti chiko na kana ni kuwa. Belata ni na vonongo kita san mai talau zakakina na lo mai kita. Belata na ni tonga teranga. Ni dodo na mendo sapa na waitui. Au sinimbe dendo na panua belata na hotel era kotena non rambenu na wangalelewu era kotena non rambenu au sinkila se zabata lebu kinana deli zakau na burubur ni mamila bonga mai wenga nake na kasa saluitui enan deli zakau ya sember na COVID-19 kito sa COVID-19 rawatiko belata na wai lewu ngai ni Suva na vika zake denga ngai dire ni Suva kito le songo batiko mai na korvo turango wenga nake au kere moni vosota ke vaka mbimbi toka na nongu vosa eu kere ne kavinani kuwa au kere vivu ke taranga vikem ni sin levutu na tete serangele me kito tete kina maram kito serangan maram ngo kito sa buka tu nimbula virani to turanga sena nito matu vale waya usin do talungu turanga sangara virotunga na makumbungu au tena kito dalo na tavioka matini valenga senambele eroni ni visi ko ya ni nangele bukan dindin taka na nito umbula na vitadin kito dambe tiko na ekavina kani kuwa au baka vinaka wana United Nations Human Rights nimbuna numi kito tu na maramai wenga nake me kito umbu mai patu nomuni songo ne na kavina ni kuwa ibu sata ke vakae mol mutiko nito bosa papalangi kita kerenga moni dingom bletini kita tuga bana koro bosa ngango na vaka vitingaro ni kita kilabe na katoka merone mongo sakina kata uzoko kina na songo na kavina kendai au kerebi bukenga ke vakae rauni kita ukei bendana singa ningoleani tulire sara ka vakan dindina taka na bono kita uzaka tikina itongo andau au market venda chiko na lotu levo varombuka vakaruai au sandau chiko na makete andau volta tau doko na katau doko membleti wenga nake kita kedengo na marama koza ka sidi koza ka beata koza ka na yanga na katau doko kai koso kina vasua donga na kai vakalolo matiku vikito na kai koso patana vasua melata kita vakandre onani reza no kita bulbul tikina waka kita unre chiko na voltaka ndo akila melata na dabo melata ya ni ora ro tandola na kata udo ko ro zingoma kila vakame kita mai rere vakatiko na volitaka na makete ni wai na kata udo ko vai ando ngayani ro zingoma chiko ro na ivolingo na kuita ronin ro na ika roni zizi na vika todo ko taleso ron ravi ngi akina rukuni batu yo rongo ro na kata na kambulombula mengai mai zaki mengai mai nandel ni wai yo kere moni bosota kina ke baka dona bakro wai ron ni ngole tu na make tele rezki tu kita na bako ni vina ka kina baka lewu ye na ka vina ni ko saker bi bukenga ke baka dona kanga kita lenga kina au kerenga menga I roni vivu ke kina matentu vina kongo endo ngana ka kita lenga takana ni tu ngai wai kita ndo le sumi foi batalo ndo tala koro meroni ki ko tikito me kita le sakai voli yo wamna taka o kereta la mando bosota na vika sa kita mai zaura ke kimdo kita mai tiko rawa na ka vina kani kuwa kita na baka dortal chingando na nito itabil leka me baka kita na langata tikni to serni bonua belata ni sareza na nito matasawa Australia nangonongo bako ni binaka. Binaka bakalebu, binaka bakalebu tazingo vika. Na bosa utali tako marutaka. Meletini rola uta saranga na casa tingo yung ganaki. Binaka bakalebu kimdo, binaka bakalebu na UN, binaka bakalebu sarana kabinaka ni kuah. Kreme kita sana pakai tabi manda. Sesa.
Kia ora, kia ora whaia mā, kia ora koutou ngā wāhine toa o te rohe o Fiji, me rā atu rohe o ngā iwi taketake o te moana nui ākiwa. Just to, in my own Māori language, and I'm not a fluent speaker, but I pull out enough to pay respects in my native tongue to our mothers, the women, indeed the, we call them wahine toa, the strong women, the powerful women in our communities and in our countries and throughout the Pacific. So thank you very much. We opened with some cultural protocol and it was very appropriate that we close in the same way. It's important that we make these spaces our own, not just to, you know, keep practicing our culture, but to remind those who may be watching of the importance of culture for everybody. So thank you very much. Well, now we've come to the time where we're wrapping up our workshop. It's been a full 2 days. We've had some very important messaging come through repeatedly, I must say. Free, prior and informed consent is something that came up by several of our speakers, and we have to find ways to put pressure on decision makers to ensure that they are respecting that principle and not making decisions about Indigenous peoples, but without Indigenous peoples. We must be in those decision-making spaces. And also we had some great conversation around the value of our traditional knowledge, and that we can actually add value to the climate crisis mitigating and adaptation spaces and solutions moving forward, while also we need to be mindful of protecting our knowledge as we progress with our partners and our allies. And we hope that we can work together and collaborate more, because it's going to be very, very difficult to create those solutions on our own, and neither should Indigenous peoples be burdened and lumbered with that responsibility. We're the ones who get hit hardest, the earliest, with implications that are enduring in ways that are not the same for mainstream populations. And so it's very unfair that we should be coming up with all the ideas and solutions for these critical issues and threats that are facing our peoples. We also emphasize that there are certain groups that are more vulnerable amongst our Indigenous peoples than others: our women, our children, our elders, our disabled, LGBTQ, and those populations that might be discriminated against. Their voices have to be raised and amplified. We've got to find ways to do that. You know, it was asked, what's missing? Respect for human rights of Indigenous peoples. I mean, I'm not sure how much clearer we can get than that. That's what's missing. That's what's missing moving forward. And then in addition, we have to have monitoring of how human rights are being complied with or not, as the case may be. And we also have to have enforcement where it's needed to hold accountability. That's what's missing. How are we going to pull all these pieces of the puzzle together? We're not quite sure, but moving forward with our regional office of the Pacific, we need to do what we can to support that work. Before I came on board as an Indigenous fellow and Indigenous and Minorities fellow, the office was already doing that. To get some added capacity in the office would be brilliant. So I'm sure that's something that's moving around in the wheels of the heads of our representative OHCHR and Rob and my colleague Hayun and our other colleagues of the office who have been here at the workshop this week. How can we do that? We'll be working on it. And on that point, so the outcomes from this workshop were for networking amongst the participants. So we've got a database of all the registered participants from this workshop, and our intention is to build those relationships moving forward. You know, there's been a risk where we've created these spaces, gathered in contact details for people, and we, you know, may not have kept up those connections over time. Again, capacity issues are dragging us down a bit, but we have to up our game, and we'll do our best to keep everyone connected and informed. We'll be scooping up all of the information from the 2 days in terms of the presenters, information. Some of them had presentations. We'll be able to share those after the workshop with the registered participants if you're interested in seeing their PowerPoints. Of course, the videos we will be posting online for public access for those who couldn't make it here and to review. Honestly, I'm going to have to go back and look at some of those videos because there's so much good information shared there. I'll have to look at them again just to process what was shared, because there was a lot. And then, of course, we're going to put a report together. It will be a short, succinct report that we can share, summarizing the key highlights here, and to create activities as follow-up from the workshop. That's the important thing, because this was a broad brush, but we need to, you know, focus on some particular priority areas that have been expressed here over the last 2 days. And of course, we're not just going to go off and do that as a regional office for the Pacific. We are going to respect free, prior and informed consent and come back to our communities and just touch base about, okay, what is it that we need moving forward. And on that point, just a shout out for an activity we already have in the pipes. Sorry, we don't have quite firm timing for it, but it's a workshop on environmental and human rights defenders. So if you're interested in progressing that conversation, bouncing from here to that workshop, we'll keep you informed, or keep your radar on for notices about that coming soon to a website or email near you. So yes, I just want to thank everybody for your contributions. Your patience and endurance over the 2 days has been just magnificent. Such a privilege, me personally, and to thank also the speakers, participants, my colleagues who have been beavering away there in the room behind the scenes, late at night, getting all of this organized, and of course our fellow colleagues in the office who have pulled in their efforts to help moderate and present as well. Thank you all. I just wondered now if there was any comments that my colleagues who are still with us wanted to say before we departed.
No, thank you, Ian. Just to say, I think you've covered everything very succinctly. Just to say, on behalf of myself and the team as well, you know, again, to reiterate what Catherine said, thank you all for coming and for taking the time. I know it's like 2 days is a long time to process a lot of information. There's a lot of things discussed, but of course, as we said during the 2 days, we're here to help and to enable ways in which you want to work with the human rights mechanism. So please do come and see us. Do drop us an email if you need to, if there's an issue we need to discuss and we need to raise. Thanks very much, Catherine. Back to you.
Thanks, Rob. Well, all that's left really. I see Heike there too, so lovely to see Heike here for the closing. Thanks to everybody, and I hope you have safe travels back to wherever you're going. Keep up the great work, because we need it. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you on the next Frontline.